Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the AIM on MS&T podcast. I'm your host, Kate, and I'm so glad you have joined us today. If you are new here, let's catch you up. AIM stands for academia, industry, and military, which are the sectors that form the foundation of the modeling, simulation, and training community right here in Central Florida. Together, they make up what is known as Team Orlando, a collaborative partnership driving innovation and mission readiness through MS&T. Each episode, we sit down with leaders and innovators within the MS&T world to talk about what's new, what's next, and why it matters, especially to our Team Orlando community. Whether you're deep in the field or just curious about one of Orlando's biggest industries, second only to the theme parks and hospitality industry, we're here to keep you informed, inspired, and part of the conversation. This episode is brought to you in part by Capital Communications and Consulting, telling your story across all platforms with a clear focus and innovative impact. Whether you want to elevate your message, grow your presence, or connect with the right audience, the C3 team will help bring your story to life. Learn more at mycapitalcommunications.com. Today, our guest is Vice Admiral Sean Buck, President of NTSA, the National Training and Simulation Association. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Last time you joined us on here, you were still relatively new in your role as president. Now that you've had a little bit more time in the role, what has surprised you the most, either about the opportunities or the challenges facing the MS&T community?
Well, thanks for that question. I have an extra year underneath my belt now. Just celebrated my 2-year anniversary at the helm
Very good.
of NTSA.
Mm-hmm.
Feel as though I now know my team. I know the mission. I know the key stakeholders. I have a much deeper appreciation of the modeling and simulation industry.
Right.
And so with regards to your question, what surprises me the most is that the M&S industry, as well as many, many other industries, are still struggling with the uncertainties that are driven by the chaos in the federal government.
Right.
As far as deciding what's going to be funded, how fast we're going to move, how slow we're going to move, what will be funded, what won't be funded. And what's heartening out of all of that, in my observations, is the continued resilience of the M&S industry and the focus that they maintain and the level of innovation that continues to happen despite a whole bunch of hurdles. There's no big brick walls, but there's been a lot of hurdles, and it surprises me that they continue. I guess I wanted to be more hopeful that things would settle out. We'd get to an equilibrium where it was much more proactive. But what's surprising is we remain very reactive.
Yeah.
But the M&S industry, I'm proud of them. They're doing very well, and they react and navigate in those choppy waters really well.
Now, the operational environment has continued to evolve. From great power competition to emerging technologies and shifting global threats, what concerns you the most when you think about the warfighter readiness over the next several years? How do you see the MS&T industry rallying to fill the gaps and support the increasing needs?
So a year ago, what concerned me about warfighting readiness was the training aspect of getting our warfighters trained and ready to go fight. And in many theaters around the world, we talk about be ready to fight tonight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the bubble could go up tonight, and
That's
you
true.
better be ready. M&S industry for years has been answering to that call to get our warfighters better trained, more ready to fight tonight.
Right.
Well, a year since I last really thought about that specifically, we've had an evolution of a lot of surprise fights on our hand. Mainly the Iranian fight that we started in 2025. We've continued in the spring and early summer of 2026.
Mm-hmm.
We're very hopeful right now that we may be right at the point of peace agreement, and maybe that will calm down. But as that applies, that layering on to great power competition that we're trying to prepare for the most serious fight, is it's not only training the warfighter now, which we're very involved in. The modeling simulation industry is very involved in the training aspect of that. It is the equipping of the warfighting force. We're somewhat in crisis mode with munitions that a warfighter needs to fight the great power competition. We have expended a lot of munitions in the Iranian fight. Those come at a great cost, a financial cost. They're very, very expensive to build. They were expensive to go employ with the gas and the platforms that employed them. Now the shelves are pretty damn empty. And so it's one thing to continue to concentrate on training the warfighter.
Right.
But then we finally succeed at that, and we get the warfighters to a very heightened state of readiness. And then I'm really worried now that we've layered on top of that, we might not be able to equip the trained warfighter. So take it back to the last part of your question, where does the modeling and simulation industry, where do they play in that? What can they continue to do?
Yeah.
It's to continue to innovate and create phenomenal, immersive, synthetic, simulated training environments to keep them trained. We can't take our eye off the ball. And unfortunately, the problem with all of this is the same pot of money pays for training and munitions. And that's difficult. You know, is it the chicken or the egg? Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's both. You need to train and not short the money, the funding to do proper training, to pay and replenish the munitions pot. You need to be able to do both, and I'm not so sure yet how we're going to get after that. It's a heavy lift.
When we last had you on the podcast, you talked about game-changing technologies over the last decade and what might shape the next 10 years. Since then, are there any technologies such as AI, immersive training, human performance that are moving faster than you expected?
Not moving faster than I expected.
Okay.
I have been impressed since I really joined the industry at how fast the innovators, a lot of the small companies in this industry are leaning into this and innovating, and they're moving very rapidly. They're moving as fast as budgets will allow them to move.
Yeah.
I'm excited to answer this also with a aha moment that I had at ITSEC 2025.
Okay.
Since we last talked.
Yeah.
And that is the coming out of a technology that I understand was created about 15 years ago by Mayo Clinic for NASA, but was for many reasons, was kept out of the spotlight for all the rest of us. And there was an innovation to model and simulate motion, the sense of motion in a human. Essentially, they've been able to replicate the gyroscope in our ears,
Wow.
in our inner ear, which gives us motion. So that's a massive game changer. My words, I'm going to say game changer. Maybe some will argue with me that, well, it's been around for a long time, but it's not been in the mainstream.
Yeah.
But if you can now add this simulation to AR, VR, XR goggles that we have been using in spades to train in flight simulators in any type of immersive environment, they have been sans motion. They turn, you put those things on, you can feel yourself in a flight simulation, turning right, turning left, climbing, descending, but your body does not feel the motion. And it creates something called cyber sickness.
Yeah.
And yours truly is a human that suffers from cyber sickness. And at ITSEC last year, there was a company, not to be named right now, because I don't believe I'm supposed to be advocating for any specific company, They have brought this new simulation technology to the forefront. They add that to XR, VR, AR goggles, and it's a game changer, and we will completely remove cyber sickness in training environments. But it also has a huge medical application to help solve the problem of vertigo in human beings from a medical standpoint. I believe that deserves the two words game changing.
From your perspective, where do you see AI adding the most value to military training and simulation, and where should we be cautious?
Well, I'd like our audience to know that I'm a huge proponent of AI. I love the use of AI. I'm very excited to see the innovation that's embedding it into software scenarios. It makes our current training much more rich, much more realistic. And the more realistic we can be, the better the warfighter will be trained. Mm-hmm. It also enables scenario generation to be able to iterate a particular vexing problem over and over and over again with different unique options. In days of old, we would have to play the exact same scenario with the same answer over and over and over again, and it got rather stale, got boring, and it didn't make us better.
That's true.
Now I'm seeing the U.S. military generate scenarios, if not hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of different scenarios and what-if situations to allow us to gain the confidence that the plan that we're going to put forward has been played out and tested so well that we have the confidence to go execute it and think that we'll be very successful doing it, which saves lives, it wins wars, it's cheaper, we don't have to go back and do it over again, we can be effective on the first pass. All of that is derived from the employment of AI in our planning and our training. Where should we be cautious with AI? You're interviewing an old dog who isn't ready to learn all the change the old tricks, but when it comes down to ethical decision making from a military point of view, which is essentially pulling triggers, employing weapons, taking lives to accomplish our mission and defend our national interests, I still am one of those believers that a human needs to remain in the loop, informed by, aided by the use of AI, but not allowing AI to replace that human decision maker when the ultimate decision is made.
Yeah. Going back to your role at NTSA, now that you've had more time here, what are some of the accomplishments you are most proud of?
I think as an NTSA team and then as a part of the broader Team Orlando team, I'm most proud of the concerted effort that we all put forth last summer to defend and explain and support PEO STRI when they came under a significant threat of being either disestablished as a command or reorganized or reallocated as a command. And I am proud of how NTSA was able to help contribute to the storyline for them, to Army leadership, to the Department of War leadership, and ultimately to the country about the importance of how they play along with the other services here in Orlando and why it would be strategically a bad decision to disestablish them as an organization for the Army. I'm also real proud of how the team has been able to raise the awareness level nationally of what NTSA is and what we do to advocate for the modeling and simulation industry. Those are probably the two things that I'm most proud of in this last year.
Looking back at last year's ITSEC, what stood out to you the most? Were there themes, technologies, or conversations that signaled where the industry is headed? What feedback did you hear from military leaders and industry partners after the conference?
Last year, as I walked the exhibit floor day after I was able to go into some of the presentation rooms, a common theme that I kept seeing that really stood out was the level of innovation that continues to go on each day and ultimately is brought to ITSEC for public display and discussion and sharing. I was not personally aware of that significant level of innovation. And it jumped out at me going, wow, every single person here's mind is going a mile a minute to think ahead. And they're all listening. There was great collaboration. People were talking to one another, sharing ideas, sharing problems. And I could just see it in people's eyes and kind of hear it in some of their conversations when I was privy to the conversations, the level of innovation that was going on and the desire to solve problems.
Yeah.
It's very healthy. It's very exciting. Made me proud to be the organization that convened the venue to allow all of this type of collaboration to happen.
NTSA has been busy with a lot of other events since then. Do you want to run through some of the highlights for our audience? And since this is being recorded the week of TSIS 2026, what will stand out from this event?
Well, we physically added one new event to the calendar in support of the United States Army and their modeling and simulation community. They asked NTSA to go out to Leavenworth, Kansas, Fort Leavenworth area, which is the hub of the Functional Area 57, the modeling and simulationists for the Army, and to convene and put on their annual black tie gala, which is a huge team building event for their community, which is always good to contribute to the team building. And it made me a better leader of NTSA because it really deepened my understanding of where at least one of our services modeling and simulation hub is, and that's out in Leavenworth. So that's a new event that we put on. It was deemed successful.
Oh, good.
And we have been asked to come back and put that on our annual calendar and be part of that event, and we intend to do so for the Army. Some of what we're also adding is for future. We're still working again with the U.S. Army to try to put on a much bigger, robust event for modeling and simulation specifically for the Army. We're looking to introduce that in 2028.
Oh, okay.
And we're also very involved with the United States Space Force's Training and Readiness Command, STARCOM, which is headquartered over at Patrick Space Force Base, close to Orlando, where we're talking now, and to putting on a very space training focused event for them also, to raise the awareness not only within the Space Force, but all of the Department of War of who the Space Force is, what do they do, how are their guardians trained, and then for industry, how can they then more and better contribute to helping STARCOM with their training and readiness requirements. And we intend to do that in 2027 for the Space Force. I think what all the attendees will be very hungry for at this particular TSIS is this is the first TSIS event in which people have a much better understanding of the changes that have been brought about from the acquisition transformation initiatives from the Department of War.
Right.
So as the commands here in Team Orlando have gotten their hands around some of the changes that their own service departments, but the Department of War is driving them towards to improve the acquisition process, the speed of delivery, at that pace, I think the dialogue will be very rich between those up on the stage presenting and those in the audience that are being given an opportunity to ask questions, so that the understanding amongst everyone is much, much better. What's the outcome of all that? Better understanding is we are hopeful that we're going to see improvements in the acquisition process and get things delivered to the warfighter in their hands quicker.
Right.
And that will be a win-win-win-win-win.
Yeah. Now, looking ahead, what's in store for ITSIC 2026? What's new? Where's the focus? And what are your goals for this year's conference?
It's exciting to talk about that. There's 2 new initiatives that we're bringing to the exhibit floor and to possibly some of the presentation rooms on 2 new focus areas. One, the traditional trades training. Our country, as you may have read in your press, we have a massive shortage of the traditional trades such as welding, pipe fitting, HVAC, electricians, plumbers, bricklayers, you name that. But you take some of those particular skilled artisan trades as they apply to the defense industry, and we are hundreds of thousands of artisans short. And to try to improve that, to try to fill that backfill, those humans are going to require training.
Yeah.
And it's my belief that simulation will play a big part in providing that training and accelerating that training so that we can get more skilled artisans out into the field helping with national defense to build ships, build submarines, build tanks, build airplanes. And we're going to bring that to the floor and have NTSA become part of the solution for America in solving those shortages. Another important aspect that we want to bring back to the watch floor that I understand was a part of ITSIC in years past before my watch was the whole idea and focus on wargaming. Wargaming is very, very important to what-ifing countless scenarios to try to play and plan and predict before we actually go to war. And we need to improve the awareness of what wargaming is and how to do it to younger generations. We're going to try to expose the student population that comes to ITSIC to what wargaming is, as well as the more seasoned adult, both the government, the uniformed warfighter, as well as the seasoned members of industry who know what wargaming is, but expose them to what the service's needs are so that they can play and contribute that more. So that's something we're bringing back to ITSIC, and the traditional trades training will be a new aspect of that. On the process side, we're going to be in year 2 of using the AI bot and the concierge type of tailored experience at ITSIC. Last year, we introduced an app on your phone to try to aid the individual attendee to have a better experience, to get better return on their investment. We got a lot of feedback on both what were the good attributes of that and how could it also be improved. We've made those improvements, we've made that investment, and I'm hoping that year 2 will even be better than the last.
That's great. With that, I would like to thank Vice Admiral Buck for joining us on here today. That's a wrap on this episode. Thank you for tuning in. Want to stay in the loop on what's happening in the modeling and simulation and Team Orlando communities? Head to teamorlando.org and follow us on LinkedIn, X, and Facebook for all the latest updates and upcoming events. If you're looking to spotlight your organization or share your voice on AIM on MS&T, sponsorship and guest opportunities are available. Contact us. The information will be in the description. Don't forget to follow AIM on MS&T on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. I will talk to you all in the next one. Bye!